Hello, friends. Sometimes I observe things in this great country called Nigeria, and I wonder how some crop of self centered, greedy, and myopic leaders can keep getting away with so many atrocities, disdain, and disregard for decades, and the people keep enduring, adjusting, sacrificing, and adapting to unnecessary pain and frustration. The street and social media in the last couple of days showcased the very sad experience of the people's pain and frustration in their effort to exchange their old currency notes at various banks for the new ones, for them to just keep carrying on with their already painful lives. Yet, this appeared like asking for too much. Many Nigerians are truly cashless, suffering, hungry, and their small businesses are dying. Yet some powers that be remain unmoved by the plight of these innocent and struggling citizens. Please, who placed this curse of self-hate on us as a people? Who afflicted us with this joy of seeing the masses groan, wail, and suffer needlessly? The desperation to implement the currency change and render the previous notes worthless within a CBN stipulated time obviously has other motives apart from the interest and the well-being of the masses. There are widespread speculations and accusations that the real motive for this change in currency is to avoid vote buying by politicians who perhaps have stashed up cash for this very purpose. However, the CBN is yet to officially state these as their principal motive. If you'd ask me, I do not see any other motive driving the CBN deadline above and beyond politics. It very much looks like it's politically motivated. However, it is quite absurd, and it parades perhaps the callousness of an enlightened CBN authority that chooses to assume the only purpose and use of cash in an electioneering era in Nigeria is politics. Perhaps they should be reminded there is still an economy existing and running during political campaigns. Their CBN authorities. Normal lives of Nigerians have not ceased to exist. Trade and transactions are still ongoing and will never be suspended because of elections. Nigerians still need to feed, they still need to move around and still run their businesses, election campaigns or no election campaigns. Many Nigerians still have daily bills to pay and still purchase necessary goods and services every day, regardless of political campaigns, political parties' plans and actions, or the upcoming elections. I judge it as mean and insensitive to subject millions of Nigerians to untold hardship and unnecessary pain simply based on this myopic desire to truncate the possibility of vote buying by politicians. Perhaps there is a need to enlighten the CBN leadership that it takes two for vote buying to occur. There have to be a willing seller for there to be a willing buyer. Secondly, there are other materials other than cash a vote seller will be willing to accept in exchange for his or her vote. Thirdly, there are other currencies a willing seller will gladly accept in exchange for his or her vote apart from the Naira. Yeah? So why punish millions of Nigerians if vote buying is the driver of this rather insensitive deadline? As a livestock farmer, I'm very much in touch with the base of the masses of this country, and I relate daily with the grassroots of our clearly segmented citizens and their realities. Hence, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Perhaps I should remind the CBN leadership that Nigeria is in the top 3 unbanked countries in the world. Yes, top 3 unbanked countries in the world. 40% of Nigeria's adult population don't have bank accounts. 73% do not have all the documents banks require to open accounts for them. So even if they want an account, they can't have one. Simply Google this information if perhaps you don't have this data at CBN. Secondly, on the accounts of the cost of banking, mysterious deductions, and rife internet banking fraud the banks will never take responsibility for, many Nigerians have resolved to keep their hard-earned cash in their homes, and these are the ones who even have bank accounts. So when the call was made for Nigerians to deposit their old 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira notes in the bank, the 59 million adult Nigerians with no bank accounts mostly handed their cash to those that have bank accounts to help them deposit with the hope of receiving the new notes in record time. Sadly and unfortunately, the new notes are not available to be exchanged. Hence, these unbanked Nigerians are stranded, they are hungry, and they are angry. Their parents are hungry. Their children are hungry. Unbanked laborers remain unpaid. Daily earners can't transact and run their trade smoothly, and many small businesses are dying. This, dear CBN, is the reason for the pockets of crisis and riots in different parts of the country. Don't be deceived that it is also tied to politics. I believe the CBN authorities are too exposed and informed to assume all Nigerians are on social media, all Nigerians are educated, all Nigerians have bank accounts, ATM cards, and the appropriate devices and literacy to conduct online transactions. The frustration for even those who have these privileges is the failure of required technology to efficiently support this option. Networks are most times down, platforms mostly failing, leaving buyers and sellers generally annoyed and frustrated. Why this obstinate decision to destroy the economy, punish the masses, and provoke unrest in this country based on perhaps an unnecessary and repugnant political relevance by the CBN? A free and fair election will definitely lose its perhaps pristine intention if with it comes unnecessary and untold hardship and torment for the people, the electorate. I do not think this perhaps desperation for a free and fair election should necessarily come with widespread unrest, loss of lives and properties, and the crash and end to the means of livelihood of millions of poor Nigerians. The poor masses at the grassroots, the 57 million unbanked adult Nigerians, and even the banked ones confronted daily with failing payment platforms will no longer give a damn about the so-called free and fair elections if they have to pay so dearly for it. The so-called freely and fairly conducted elections will not be remembered by the people. No, the pain, the sorrows, the torment, the losses, the debts, the unrest and shame that came with it is what will never be forgotten by the people. The most painful and scary part of this drama, ladies and gentlemen, is the Supreme Court ruling barring the CBN and the federal government from enforcing the deadline of the circulation of the old notes, and the audacity of the CBN to ignore and disdain this ruling of the highest court in the land, and insist the deadline must remain and be enforced by the powers in charge. What a tragedy. What a tragic precedent. If the CBN authorities, employees of Nigerians, representing a public institution, can boldly decide against the order of the highest court in the land, our democracy is perhaps in trouble. This, in my opinion, is a major threat to our hard-earned democracy, especially under a president who transformed into a passionate Democrat and has remained steadfast and committed to the rule of law, even in times when well-known looters and accused public officials use the same rule of law to get away with their atrocities. One day, you guys at CBN will leave that office and become normal, regular citizens of Nigeria again, without the powers or influence of that office, and the people will never forget you. Enough said. Muyiwa Afolabi is my name.
Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell.